Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Burwell, your host of V Speaks Conversations with Heart and Soul. We started this a couple of years ago as another platform, a sister to V Magazine. And we are so excited to be able to introduce you today to Carly Barnes, Executive Director of Caring and Sharing, a wonderful nonprofit organization that I had the privilege of going and touring last week. And I was beyond impressed what she and the organization is doing. Without further ado, Carly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
You're very welcome. So I guess maybe we'll start with our tour that we had last week.
Yeah.
So I've lived here for 31 years. I know a lot about what's going on in the community as a result, and having the magazine and all that. And I knew, obviously, of Caring and Sharing all these years. And I knew with Cafe 30A, Christmas charity ball every year, that you've always been the benefactor of that. And so you were really, front and center in my mind that you were a charity in town that was, in need and doing good works. And you and I had talked about, initially when we met, about so many different nonprofit organizations in our town who do exceptional work. And there is a serving spirit here for people that have the ability and have means to be able to help various sectors of our community that are in need. And I had sort of, looking at that situation, thought, wow, Caring and Sharing's been here for a really long time, but then there's so many other organizations that, let's just say, I think are getting like a lot of airplay. Right. Okay, we'll just say that. And then I'm thinking, wow, how much marketing really does need to go into these organizations for them to all thrive and survive? And my answer to my own question was a lot. I mean, there is so much top of mind brand awareness, and to say like that a charity is a brand is something I'm still trying to wrap my head around right now. But the reality is there are so many. And so since you've been here pretty much one of the longest, at least 30 years, I really wanted to make sure that I got to know you, the organization, and I wanted to take the tour. So that was last Thursday, I think, or Friday. I can't even remember what it was. Oh, no, it was just this week on Monday. And I was completely in awe of what you were doing. I didn't understand the magnitude of the need, and I live here. That concerned me a lot about how did that happen. And I am, and I have a pulse. So how did it happen? And one, to commend you and all of your staff that I saw in the middle of the day, just doing your thing. It's bustling. Everyone was moving. Nobody is standing still. This 8,500 square foot facility that seemed to go on and on with the thrift store and the bread pantry. And what else? I mean, so many different refrigerators in the back, in the sort of makeshift storage units, but how many are back there? Were there 6 or 8?
So you saw our very tiny pantry. We're serving 500 families a month out of that little tiny space. So what we've had to do over the years is put sheds behind the building, and we have 2, they are climate controlled, 2 sheds filled with canned goods, because the amount of food we need to serve the families we're seeing, we cannot keep inside of our pantry because it's so small. So you got to see that whole little area. We have bread out in the hallway. We have bags everywhere in the building. We make it work with the space we have.
You do. And you do it like incredibly gracefully and flawlessly, because it's not, and I told you this, it's not like glamorous. And I'm not saying that other organizations are, but it isn't. It's so authentic and so real, and the need is so great. 500 families a month is a staggering number to me. And again, I just kept thinking about it, going, how do I not know this?
Yeah. And 40% of those families live in Santa Rosa Beach. That's something people do not understand. Whenever I speak, I'm sure to share that statistic, because people think that our clients are driving from Defuniak or Freeport, and some of them are, but the majority live right here in Santa Rosa Beach.
Yes, that is also, you mentioned that, and that is something that I'm having a hard time wrapping my arms around. But I have known, just in our community, there's, I kind of call it the haves and the have-nots. We live in a very well-heeled community. There's a lot going on. I do think it's a generous community, but that doesn't
Definitely.
mean that we can't keep doing more. There is a need to keep spreading the word in our community so that you, Caring and Sharing, and the other organizations as well, that we can all continue to do our part in it. So how about talking about the fact that all that's great, but you still have a great need for expanding? And what are your goals to expand?
Yeah, so many things are about to happen for Caring and Sharing. We are currently looking at a building, and I hope in the next few weeks that we end up purchasing that building. Like you said earlier, we are bursting at the seams. We've been in our current location for 30 years, and the work that we're doing has drastically changed in the last 3 years. Since the pandemic, we are offering more services than we ever have before. So the pantry has always been there. We've always provided food to the community, but now we've expanded our financial assistance program. So we do rent, past due utilities, help getting a license so you can drive and maintain a job, and other various assistance, things like that. But we also have counseling and case management, and we are out of space to put offices for additional counselors and case managers. I have put an office in every nook and cranny in that building, and I'm just out of space. So our board started exploring what it would look like for us to move the thrift store or move our client services to another building. So that's something that I hope in the next few weeks we have an answer on. But then, do we serve more people because we have a new building and we have more space, or do we better serve the people that we're currently seeing? That's kind of what we're working with now. Surely more people will come. I think that what we've seen over the last few years is as we talk more about Caring and Sharing, it not only brings in additional donors and additional support, but it brings in more clients. When our clients come in and they have a good experience, then guess what? They go tell their neighbors. They tell their aunt and uncle. They tell their family that we are there to help. And that makes people comfortable enough to come and see us and access what we're offering.
So 30 years ago, you were telling me that it was started by a gentleman who's still alive.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Ed Moreau.
Ed Moreau.
So he
Shout out to Ed Moreau.
Yes.
You did a good thing.
I was lucky enough to serve on the board with him for a few years. Fantastic gentleman. And he would spend a lot of time at Caring and Sharing. He'd always pop in and see us and see what we were doing. He had an idea to start Caring and Sharing at the same time that the South Walton Ministerial Association did. They were pooling funds from local churches to fund a Neighbors in Need program. And about a year after they started that, Ed was starting Caring and Sharing, and they decided, let's shift those resources and that programming to Caring and Sharing. So today we are still supported by many local churches.
And at the beginning, were you offering as many services as you offer now, or did that organically grow?
No, to be honest, that organically grew. I say organically, but I think the pandemic forced it, right? So I started in February 2020. The pandemic started in March 2020. And we had a whole new team in place at that time. And we saw the needs of the community. And the needs of the community grew during the pandemic. People were missing work. They couldn't pay their rent. Their kids were out of school and they couldn't afford a babysitter so that they could go to work if their place of work was open. So I think that the team we had in place was perfect to pivot and meet the needs of the community. I'm one of those people who is willing to always try something. So we said, we're seeing these needs. How can we meet them? Let's start doing that. And the money will come. The policies will come. The clients will come. So we really, in 2020, we added the rental assistance. We added counseling and case management, and we expanded our other financial assistance policies. So we were able to help with a little bit more, and we were able to meet our clients' needs, whatever those were when they came to us.
So you sat on the board for a couple of years prior to you being named executive director. So you were telling me you obviously had intimate working knowledge about what was going on and all the needs and all that. So that was a good foundation for you to be ready for taking this position. And then, like you just said, 1 month later, we had the pandemic, and my hat's off to you, already off to you. But then knowing sort of the chronology of all that you were up against, that was they were fierce obstacles, and the need was even exponentially greater because of it, because that just turned the world upside down. And then just to add into the mix, so how am I calculating this? Well, you have a 15-month-old baby, and so I can't even do the math here. So how long after you assumed the position? Were you pregnant when you assumed it? Or
no? So my husband and I got married in November of 2020. Okay. Yes, we were one of the crazy ones who had a pandemic wedding. Friday the 13th.
Congratulations.
We got married Friday the 13th, 2020, over here at Monet. And then so I had Millie in February 2022.
Okay.
So
that's a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. It's been a fun few years for me, professionally and personally.
Yes. That is something else. I mean, it's almost superwoman. No. Yeah, I'd say so. I definitely would say so. So what, I asked you when we met, if you could talk about, if you are able to share some stories, to communicate like really what's going on to a few people that you've been able to meet, see, and help.
So there are so many stories. We're seeing 500 families a month. That's about 1,500 individuals. And, they all have a different story. I get asked a lot, like, do you see a lot of addiction? Do you see a lot of people taking advantage of the system? Do you see, and yes, we see some of that, but we also see a lot of hardworking families who just can't afford to live in Walton County anymore. So I had a lady, and I just overheard this conversation as I was passing through the lobby. She was in tears because we gave her a mattress. So part of our thrift store, we get donations from the community, and then we sell those, and then the proceeds from the store fund our programs. But it also gives us the ability to give our clients some basic necessities, like a mattress. This woman was in her 50s, and she had never slept on a mattress before. And she was in tears talking to our team about what that meant to her and what that night of sleep felt like.
Wow.
So a mattress donated by someone in the community, it cost us no money to give her that and to really change her experience, her ability to get rest, her ability to feel comfortable. I sat down with our director of programs and outreach yesterday, Emily Proctor, and I was like, tell me a little bit about what's been going on. And she shared a story with me about a young mother having her first baby, who was staying in her car. And her car was not on the road legally. She had some fees that she had to pay in order to have, her license and her insurance reinstated. And she is days away from having her first child, doesn't have family here. The father's not in the picture. And she can't even drive to her family to stay with her mother while she goes through this life-changing experience, because she's afraid she's going to get pulled over and end up in jail because of the fines attached with her license. So our team worked with some community partners, which is kind of our specialty, right? We offer certain things, but our ability to connect clients to other people to meet the needs that we can't, I think, is where we really thrive. So we connected with St. Vincent de Paul, someone we work with a lot. They're out of St. Rita's, and we were able to help her get those fines resolved so that she could drive and stay with her mother while she welcomed a child into the world.
Wow.
Because, having a baby and being alone is really challenging. I don't know how she would have done that. So the beauty of our team is that they're willing to work through situations like that. Emily and Carla have the biggest hearts, and they really work. They never tell a client, no, sorry, we can't help. They think, okay, what can we do? What can our partners do? How can I connect you? They really take the time to work through situations like that and make sure our clients feel loved and cared about and supported.
Yeah, you can just feel that everybody there is in it, and they have a seemingly tireless heart and attention for need. And when you are met with a lot of people that are in need, it can be overwhelming. I mean, it's stressful on, caregivers or social workers or whatever. So, and the need is so great, what I'm seeing and hearing. How do you all stay so up and ready every day because what you're seeing every day is a consistent stream of problems that solutions need to be available for them.
This is something that we have recently started having a lot of conversations about, kind of the self-care, because Emily and Carla, they're carrying hundreds of families' problems on their shoulders. Them having to say no to somebody, or we cannot help because you've already maxed out the amount of assistance you can get, is really heartbreaking for them. They have a really hard time doing it, but they have to, right? Because we're serving so many people, we have to make sure there's enough for everybody. But that's why we work so hard to bring in donors, to put on these great events, to spread the word about the work that we're doing so that we don't have to say no. We work really hard to create partnerships so that when we have to say no, we know somebody else who will say yes, or somebody that we can connect them with, that we have a relationship that can help them. But we're working hard on self-care. I actually have a masseuse scheduled for next week to come give chair massages. We've talked through taking a few hours on a Tuesday and Thursday when we're not doing assistance to just focus on something that allows you to kind of rebuild a little bit, because you're right. When you're constantly hearing these terrible, tough, hard stories, that weighs on you.
It does.
And
burnout.
It's not easy. Yeah. And I don't want to lose these two ladies. I mean, Emily and Carla, they really have a heart for this work. So we are working together to figure out how to stop burnout, because it is a lot. And we thought after the pandemic, things would slow down. So in 2020, we were seeing about 300 families a month. It just keeps getting higher and higher. And as our area grows, and as, inflation takes hold, and as groceries are more expensive and gas is more expensive and housing is unattainable in Walton County, the needs of our community are only going to grow.
Well, didn't we talk about the definition now for affordable housing is a $400,000 home?
Right. I mean, so I always ask this question when I go to presentations. Local developers are going to stop inviting me. But I say, what does affordable mean? Is it in line with the market, or is it actually affordable for someone waiting tables, cleaning condos, working at the local grocery store? Like, what is affordable is not in line with other housing here. Right. $1,200 a month for a studio is not affordable.
And I think they're hard to find.
They are.
1,200 is hard to find.
Yeah. So we get funding sometimes through different partnerships. So we've recently gotten some federal funding that allows us, it's called rapid rehousing, and it allows us to do first month's rent, last month's rent, deposits, things like that. But even finding somewhere who will work with our clients that is considered affordable by the standards of the government, it's really hard. We have to find these landlords who are renting out an RV or a room, or, there are a few complexes that are fairly affordable. But I mean, it's really challenging.
Yeah. And the catch-22 situation of that is people need to, they live here because they want to go to restaurants and they want to have nice places to shop. And our infrastructure basically needs people to be in those industries as well. And if they can't stay here, then the entire ecosystem, the economic ecosystem, is going to devolve. And so it's like so smart from the top to understand the whole system.
Yeah.
And, then the gap need that you're filling is unbelievable. So I'm going to sort of try to paint a picture of what I saw in my mind and what you told me when Kelly and I walked up there, drove up there last week. The parking lot is not that big, but then you said there's a line of cars that are coming where you're handing them food and other items into their cars, and then the turnaround of that, just facilitating the traffic control, which I didn't see, but there wasn't even a line then, and it was still sort of hard to navigate in and out.
Right.
I know you're a superwoman and you can do a lot of things, but who is directing that? I mean, how does that work?
So that's one of the fun jobs that our volunteers and staff working our food line get to have. They're often out there directing traffic because luckily our thrift store is very successful. A lot of people come and shop, but our food line is also very busy. So, if you pull into our parking lot, one car can't come in and one can't go out at the same time. It is like one at a time situation. And we don't have a lot of parking spots. So if the thrift store is really busy and the food line is really busy, you might try and pull in and you can't. And I've pulled back in after a meeting and can't find somewhere to park. Yeah. So that is out of all of our complaints about the building. It is not the fact that our pantry is too small or that our floors are worn and old or that we need a new paint job. It is the parking lot.
Yeah. Facilitate executing distribution is like almost like your hugest immediate problem right now. And people get very impatient in cars that aren't moving and even volunteers probably are impatient as well, trying to keep the lid on, but still, that is something that would be wearing.
Yes. And luckily, most people who pull into our parking lot kind of know what to expect. We have had a few people who do get impatient, but we're like, listen, it's a food line. Yes. Like this is our food pantry day. Yes. That's why it's so busy. Yes. That's our entire purpose for existing is to serve the community. Right. The thrift store is just a benefit, right? That's not why we're here. It's helpful, but we are here to operate this food line. Right. So I'm sorry you're getting frustrated. Right. Just give us 1 second while we load up the food and then they'll be out of the way. Right. So.
But then in a weird way, the food pantry is sort of inextricably, the thrift store is inextricably connected because it is generating, which I can't believe this number that you told me, but $30,000 a month.
Yeah. In a good month, we get about $30,000. And that's one of the lower thrift stores in the area. Believe it or not, they are all doing very well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. New piece of information.
Yes. So it's a great source of revenue for us. And we hope that when we're able to move our assistance programs to another location, that it frees up some of those parking problems, that it allows us to expand the thrift store so that we can bring in even more money because it goes directly back into our community.
Right. And then I want to talk to you again. We've already talked about this just so our listeners can understand this as well. When I walked into the thrift store, I was quiet. I just kept staring at everything, like paying attention to how meticulously organized like all the jeans were, and then the men's and the women's section, and how much care and attention went into it, almost like a retail store would be. And what that said to me, so many things, but one of them was the amazing care and attention and detail that went into that is you and your staff having an immense amount of respect and honoring the people that are going to be coming in there to buy these jeans that are $2 and $3 or whatever. That like broke me. It's really something.
We have an amazing director of operations, Lynn, who keeps that store running and looking beautiful. And, during the pandemic, we had to close the store for 2 months. So we lost a lot of revenue during that time. But we were like, well, since we're closed, let's do some renovations. And since then, we've just continued to improve the space because, when you have been in one space for 30 years, it starts looking a little rough. And we wanted to have a good shopping experience because it is such a huge revenue generator for us. We want people to come in and feel like it's a treat, like they're treasure hunting, right? In this store.
And you did that so beautifully.
And our clients shop in our store too. We give thrift store vouchers to them so they can shop and get clothing and household essentials at no cost to them. So I think that's one of the benefits too of our store is, people give their donations and we sell them and make great money that funds our programs, but also our clients have access to all that wonderful stuff too.
And you were sharing before we got on camera that a lot of people come to the thrift store for community connections instead of really needing something else, right?
Yeah. No, we've talked before about what if we just stopped doing the thrift store? It would allow us to expand our pantry and our services. And again, that is the whole reason we're there. What if we just got rid of the thrift store? And I'm like, we can't. We have so many people who come in and shop. We have several individuals who come in 3 and 4 times a week because that's the only social interaction they're getting all week. They feel cared about and loved in our store. And that's not something, if you're not there every day, that you know. I leave my door open a lot of days and customers come by and they say, hey, they'll come in and chat with me and, tell me about their life, tell me about they enjoy the improvements they've seen to the store. It's just, we try and make it a place where people enjoy coming and a place where people feel loved and cared about while they're there, whether they're there for services or to shop or to drop off donations, whatever their purpose is for being there.
Yeah. You're doing such a good work. Such a good job too. And as an executive director, you have to know a lot of different things about how to interact with governmental agencies and then just mindful of your own staff that they don't get burned out. And the food stamps and just like so many different things. How are you able to do all of that? Like that, you have to be incredibly resourceful, but you also have to know like a tremendous amount of how the systems are working on all those different platforms. So 2-3 years ago in the pandemic, did you have to learn all that or did you have some working knowledge of this already?
So I have always been involved in nonprofits. It's kind of my passion. I can't help myself but to say yes when I'm asked to volunteer or contribute or do something for a nonprofit. But I didn't know what I was getting into. Despite serving on the board, I did not know what I was getting into. We actually got our first ever federal funding in, I believe it was 2021. And last year we got over $300,000 from, it's called the Emergency Solutions Grant. And it came in, there was a COVID version that allowed us to provide emergency shelter and some other things that we can't provide on our normal budget. And so learning the ins and outs of that make us, question if we'll ever take federal funding again. But luckily, my team is amazing when it comes to learning the different resources that are available for our clients. If they don't know the answer, they will find it. They will research it themselves. They will figure it out. So it doesn't fall on me all of the time. I mean, as executive director of any nonprofit, you do wear a lot of hats, right? I'm the IT person. I'm the supply orderer. I'm the one paying the bills, doing the bookkeeping, making sure that our power stays on, bringing in all the funds. So there are a lot of hats there. But when it comes to some of the funding and access to programs, like my team has done an amazing job of learning who does what in our community and what is accessible for us and our clients.
Wow. Hats off to all of you. So how many volunteers do you have on a monthly basis or is it a weekly? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we fill about 300 volunteer shifts each month. So our volunteers run our thrift store. They sort through the thousands of donations we get every month. They pack the food bags. They run the food line is what we call it. They do everything.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And who oversees that?
Lynn, our director of operations. And she's perfect for it. I mean, she's just the friendliest, kindest person you will ever meet. She has big curly hair, so you'll never forget her. She manages all of that and really a lot of other things. So she kind of oversees volunteers, thrift store employees, and then Emily oversees our pantry, our client assistance programs, our community partnerships.
Wow.
So that's kind of how it's broken up.
So many things to keep talking about, but before I forget, Publix donates a lot for you too. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, they do. So they've been a partner for a lot of years. We pick up bread, pastries, and other miscellaneous things from them several days a week from the Santa Rosa Beach location and the watercolor location. So that's just kind of an extra perk for our clients. They get a bag of food, but then with that, they also get bread, pastries, and some different treats. So Publix is super generous to us.
That's awesome. Good community partner.
Great community partner.
Any others that you want to give a shout out to? The churches that you had already mentioned?
Yeah, we have some great partnerships with local churches. Christ the King just gave us a $10,000 donation and gave me the opportunity to speak with their congregation. The Rosemary Beach Foundation is a huge supporter of the work that we're doing. Rosemary Beach in general, they just allowed us to have our wine dinner at the town hall, which was a huge success. Who else? I mean,
Alice Beach Foundation? Foundation?
The
too?
Alice Beach Foundation gives us a nice donation every year. The St. Joe Community Foundation is a huge supporter of the work we're doing. I mean, we have probably 15 or 20 churches that donate to us on a monthly basis.
Wow.
From $100 to $1,500. Point Washington United Methodist Church is a huge supporter. We just are so blessed by the generosity in our community.
Unbelievable.
I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but I mean, the list could go on and on.
Right. And so you are in a perpetual state of finding money and continuing to have enough money to serve. So you are going to be submitting an application to the Destin Charity Wine Auction this year, right? And
we are.
Hopefully you get that.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers crossed. And any other big grants that you're working on?
So I always submit the St. Joe Community Foundation grant every month or every year. And they've been super generous to us. They've helped us make some building improvements. They helped us get a new, larger truck so that we could pick up more donations around town. What else am I working on? I'm working on 3 different grants this week.
Okay.
Trustmark is one of them. Chelco does a grant that we get every year. Like you said, this is my gig, finding the money always.
Right. And then talk about the fashion shows that are very good for you for fundraising and visibility too. And one coming up in the fall?
Yeah. So we have our fall fashion shows in October at Monet. And then we do a spring fashion show every February. And it's been at the VIE on 30A the last probably 5 years. And they're really fun events. So just recently they've started being really great fundraising events and bringing in about $15,000. Before that, we kind of just looked at them as good community events because our volunteers model clothing from our thrift store.
Oh, awesome.
So it's all volunteers. It's not professional models. They forced me to do it last year. So I was in it last year or this spring. But it's all clothing from that's donated to our store. So what we do is we kind of put some things away throughout the year. And then we set up an on-site boutique with racks of clothing. We have a silent auction. And then we do a legit fashion show on a red carpet. And it's really, really fun.
So that will be at Monet this fall?
Yes.
Okay. So what were we talking about earlier so that I can donate some clothes from my closet?
Yeah. Lisa mentioned cleaning out her closet. And I said, I have a great idea at the fall fashion show. Let's have a rack of Lisa Burwell's fabulous clothes.
We will do it. I will start tonight.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's
going to be so fun.
It's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do that. So what else can we talk about? How can people donate? How can people get involved either from volunteering vantage point, financial, or, any other? I mean, there's so many needs.
So many needs. But our website is caringandsharing.org. You can donate there. You can learn more about volunteering there. Like I said, we use 300 volunteers a month to do the work that we're doing. So we constantly need volunteers, whether you commit to a weekly shift or you pop in here and there, we will take you anytime. We're going to open on Saturdays in June. Our thrift store is opening. So that will hopefully help us generate some revenue. So you can drop off donations on Saturdays or any day of the week for the thrift store. We pick up larger items like furniture from your house. And then we sell that in the store. We have a new program called Neighbors Helping Neighbors, which is having people commit to a $1,000 donation per year, or you can do $84 per month. And that's just to give, our goal this year is 50 members, but that's $50,000, right? That's another case manager for us. And we're actively hiring another case manager because right now we have one case manager serving all the families we see. That is not sustainable. That is how burnout happens.
Right.
So in the next few weeks, we will be hiring a case manager. We have our fashion shows coming up that you can support. We always have something going on. If you are interested in getting involved in any way, whether that's financially donating, dropping off food or diapers or feminine products, there is always a need to be met.
Did we talk about the feminine product drive that you're having right now too?
No, we talked about it before we started filming, but you all shared it on your social media the other day too, which was amazing. We're doing a feminine product drive this month. We get over 150 requests per month for diapers and feminine products. Because you think about it, they're expensive. So we did our first diaper drive in September of last year, and that allowed us to bring in close to 6 months of diapers, which saves us almost $7,000. So, and it helped us kind of meet the needs. So we spend about $2,000 a month on hygiene products, and they don't last the whole month.
Mm-hmm.
So something we're working really hard on is how do we get more of those items so that when families come, they can come to our pantry twice a month, that every time they ask for those things, we have them on hand. So we're hoping that these drives help us kind of do that. And we have an Amazon list set up for both of the drives. So it makes it super easy to donate and contribute. It ships directly to us. So you don't have to come deal with our mess of a parking lot to drop off your donation.
Wow. Well, you have a system down, and it's amazing. And it's a big operation. It's not a small little thing. I mean, I can tell just by walking in there and just the numbers that you're talking about right now. That's a lot that is on your plate and everyone's plate there. And I thank you as a member of the community for all that you're doing, and your team and your staff. And we'll get involved more than we were before now that my eyes are wide open with your organization, and all sorts of fun things we can talk about as we continue our relationship. And I thank you so much for all you're doing. And thanks for being on VIE Speaks.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. It was an eye-opener for me. I hope it is for you. Anything that you can do or give for volunteerism or finances, and just know that the needs in the community too, when, we're talking about people here. We're talking about serving people in need, not just sort of like even how it works. It's just the end result is to be a good neighbor. Hope you have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you to our sponsors, Rose & Company. Owners David and Carrie DiGregorio have just hit it out of the park with the most gorgeous boutique in Grand Boulevard. They are the purveyors of the most unique and gorgeous, hard-to-find flowers, and curate the most unique species of roses and flowers. And there's a lot of artistry involved in it. If you have a special occasion and you want to show somebody how much you love them, you've got to get your floral arrangements from them. And they trick out our studio and make it look beautiful every single time we have our podcast. And they have unique bespoke items, and they also carry Versace china, which is just adorable. Like, who doesn't need that, right? And so if you want to visit them, go to Grand Boulevard, or if you want to order flowers online, go to their website, roseandcompanyflowers.com.